Zetterburn is currently blazing through the Rivals 2 meta. He's currently one of the most represented characters in high and top level brackets, and has tons of results across multiple brackets from multiple players. Today, let's go ahead and take a look at his matchups, and what makes him dominant or not so scary in them. I'll start with his easiest matchup and work my way up to his worst. Each section will also be timestamped, so if you're looking for insight on a specific matchup, feel free to jump around. Really quickly, before we hop into the actual matchup chart, I want to give a quick rundown of the highlights and lowlights of Zetterburns' kit. His fast burst options tend to net him massive combos, and the burn effect that he has makes his strong attacks even stronger. His recovery, however, is a bit risky, since it travels in a straight line and is pretty slow. He has tools like down B to mix it up, but using that normally forces you to recover a bit low, which leaves you vulnerable to characters with big spikes. First up is Zetterburns' only +2 current matchup, being Orcane. Orcane used to fare pretty well in this matchup, but his recent nerfs to some of his poking tools have left him without many ways to keep Zetterburn out. This allows Zetter to click away all over Orcane, and combined with Orcane's new weight, allows Zetter to net easy, neutral wins and combos that can also lead to early kill opportunities. Orcane does have a variety of soft spikes, however, like his down air and bottom hit of his up air, but those aren't really strong enough to net kills without covering multiple options from Zetter. So if you find yourself falling victim to these, try mixing up your recovery a little bit, and maybe try recovering a little bit further from the wall. In our +1 tier, we have Loxodon. Similar to Orcane, Loxodon is really vulnerable to massive combos, since he's both floaty and fat. Who can relate? His axe can be difficult to sneak around sometimes, but the sluggish frame data does leave room for openings. The only reason that he's not in the +2 category with Orcane is due to his really oppressive ledge guarding. If Zetter chooses to recover low against the wall, Loxodon can get an easy down air, and if Zetter recovers from further out, Loxodon's fly swatter forward air can easily push him back to the blast zone. These problems can be really troublesome for the Zetterburn player, but overall, you can definitely make up for it with your early kill potential and overwhelming frame data in neutral. Zetter's other +1 is Raster. I've seen people mark this one as even, but I think Zetter has a clear upper hand here, with Slipstream being easier to parry now. This means Raster can't stuff out Zetter's approaches quite as easily, and combined with Raster's lightweight and Zetterburn's incredible kill power, makes it super easy to steal early stocks. Zetterburn also being a hair faster than Raster without Slipstream helps a lot too, allowing him to cover distance and keep the pressure on. Raster's down strong can be troublesome in this matchup, so be sure to be extra careful when recovering low, or be ready for a quick tech, especially after the recent tech changes. For our last winning matchup, we have Forest Burn. This is probably Zetter's closest to even matchup in this tier, so I'm going to leave him closest to even. The Forest matchup is really tricky at neutral, but his recent nerfs to Bear and Dare make it a lot easier to play slow and safe at neutral. However, once Zetter does get in, there's no reason to play safe at all. He can click away and mash to his heart's content with little worry for Forest pulling out a fast escape option and getting out of the combo early. The big disjoints and teleport recovery can make it tricky for Zetter to capitalize on consistent punishes, which is why the matchup is a bit tricky, but overall, Zetter feels slightly advantageous in this matchup. Really quickly, before we cover the even matchups, it'd mean the world to me if you liked, commented, or subscribed. I'm a local and online TO, and the revenue from these videos help me reinvest in the scene and support those events. So any boost to the algorithm goes a long way. Speaking of those online tournaments, we have them every week in our community Discord. The link's in the description if you want to check them out. Our first even matchup is Crag. Crag, similar to Loxodon, gets comboed more or less forever. However, that's where the similarities end. Crag's recovery isn't great, but he has the tools to sneak around Zetterburn for sure, as well as having great tools to push back against Zetterburn's lacking recovery. However, Zetterburn's speed, frame data, and ability to bully heavies goes a long way in this matchup. This is one of the very few matchups where Zetterburn can cover every escape option from some of his combo starters, since Crag's so large and lacks fast get-off-me tools. There's a really great video going over this by Show, which I'll leave in the description, but a quick TLDR of that one, you can down throw in time falling up air to cover both sides, and reaction down tilt on rollaway, forcing Crag to take big damage or maybe even die. Our second even matchup is Clarin. This one can be a little tricky since she does have the huge disjoint and the powerful spike. but Zetterburn outspeeds her frame data wise, allowing him to click away while she has to be a lot more careful and neutral. Zetter also generally kills a little earlier in this matchup, as long as there's no oopsies, I got put off stage and trapped for 30 seconds. I wish I had more to say about this matchup, but it's one of the more straightforward and simple ones, since it kinda just depends who wins neutral first and who can take the first stock. Moving on to our losing matchups, we have Maple. Zetter doesn't lose this matchup by a ton, but enough to mention it. Her fast fall speed and Lily combine to making catching her really tricky, but once he does, she falls into the same problem that Raster has in the matchup where her lightweight lead to her getting evaporated just a little earlier than she'd prefer. Her lengthy ladder combos can feel a little bit scary since Zetterburn lacks a few good get-off-me options in the air, besides his down B, which can also be punished by a wrap or maybe a grab, but her tether combos are even more terrifying since they allow her to use Nair deep off stage and can be really oppressive in the matchup. If you're struggling with these, I really recommend on trying to play a little bit more patient in the grounded game, even if Maple is running away from you, since it can be really easy to just allow yourself to mash and then get punished. One other thing that Maple has that's really strong on Zetterburn is her forward air. It's really good at clocking his recovery at mid lane heights, since it doesn't hit super low below her, so if you find yourself getting hit by this move a lot, maybe try recovering a little bit lower in this matchup. Finally, to kick off our -2s, we have Fleet. Fleet's oppressive offstage gameplay leads to Zetterburn having little to no safe options when recovering, especially with her float allowing her to extend how far she can chase him with moves like Nair and Bear. Even if these moves don't end up killing Zetterburn, they do take his resources like his jumps and air dodges and can force him to go low, which leads for an easy setup into the down air, leading to early kills. Her float also allows her to mix up her landing timings and stall out of aerial combos, making it a lot harder for Zetterburn to get a massive advantage state like he would against some of the other characters. So while it is possible, you do have to work a lot harder to maximize your damage output and play a lot safer off stage. It's nowhere near an impossible matchup at all, and if you're having trouble in it, I really do suggest just trying to parry the arrows on reaction since that did get sped up in one of the most recent patches. And to consistently do that, I also recommend playing this matchup a little bit slower in the neutral so you have time to react to options like that. Of course, it's up to you how you pace the game, because being fast can overwhelm Fleet, but I find being a bit more patient into characters like her to always be a bit more rewarding. Our last matchup might seem really obvious to all of you playing close attention, or anyone playing around with the chapters or the little slider bar, I see you skip it to the end. But Rano's really risky to fight as Zetter. While his frame data isn't quite as good as Zetter's, his movement, recovery, and pressure all stack up to force Zetter to play on his back foot. His forward air offstage seems notably strong in this matchup, since if Zetter is recovering from a horizontal angle, he can forward air to push him further out with the weak hit, and if Zetter is coming up from a low angle, he can stomp Zetter back down with the sweet spot. This matchup isn't unwinnable by any stretch of the imagination. You can sometimes catch Rano on a bad recovery and get a sneaky forward air deep off stage yourself, but it's a lot harder to play accurately and safely against a character that's so fast and with such a strong punish game. That just about wraps up our matchup chart. Let me know which character you want to see discussed next, and while you wait for that, feel free to check out our Rivals 2 playlist. We have tons of guides, discussion videos, and patch breakdowns. I know you'd love them. See you in the next one.